By age 47, he had graduated from Yale, won the 1906 U.S. Amateur Golf Championship, and was the chairman of his family's multi-million-dollar steel business. He was also known as Foxy Grandpa during his days at Yale because of his good looks and success with women. But when he was 47, Byers fell while trying to get off a train berth after a Harvard-Yale football game and injured his arm. So it's not surprising that Moyer was eager to try something that might help his patient, even if he was skeptical. Byers also sent cases of Radithor to friends and even gave some to his horse. But as the months went on, Byers' health started to decline. He lost weight, suffered from headaches, and his teeth began to fall out. At first, he chalked it up to the arthritis he'd suffered from since childhood, but soon something far more sinister became apparent. Byers died on March 31, 1932, at the age of 51. An autopsy revealed he had ingested 36 micrograms of radium. Here's one from the Wall Street Journal. The radium water worked fine until his jaw came off. The story of the golf champion whose jaw fell off shocked the nation. Not only did it expose the dangers of taking radioactive cures, it also killed Bailey's business. This famous one, which has been circulated widely, is of a World War I soldier who suffered shrapnel injuries. We believe that the confusion stems from the fact that no photos of Byers' illness currently exist. They also shared their contaminated food and drinks and stored their paint-covered hands under their pillows while they slept. And now you know the chilling story behind one of the internet's most frightening viral images. In some cases, the women developed ulcers, infections, and massive tissue damage from radium buildup in their bones. Their jaws began to disintegrate, and eventually some of them died from cancers such as leukemia and Radium Jaw. A book on the Radium Girls titled Deadly Glow was published in 2017, and the women's story was featured in a 2020 PBS documentary. The FTC issued a cease and desist order against Bailey's company in December 1931, preventing him from making further claims that Radithor could treat any medical conditions. From 1917 to 1928, more than 150 dial painters at the United States Radium Corporation and other companies in Orange, New Jersey, suffered painful radium-induced illnesses, and 30 died. These women became known as the Radium Girls. At the time, they were young, poor, and mostly uneducated, so they were easy prey for unscrupulous factory owners who wanted to boost productivity. The women painted watch dials with radioactive paint, and radium, which glows in the dark, was considered a safer alternative to toxic mercury, but they weren't given proper safety equipment or training. So many of the women unknowingly ingested radium and suffered horrible side effects. The Food and Drug Administration gained stronger regulatory powers, and the radium fad quickly disappeared. That's far above the threshold for a fatal dose, which is between 10 and 20 micrograms. Even in death, he remained radioactive. Just 13 years after he died, his body was exhumed in 1965 and found to contain 225,000 becquerels of radiation. That's roughly 4 times higher than a typical human's radiation level from potassium-40, a naturally occurring radioactive element. To put that in perspective, the average person receives about 2 millisieverts of radiation per year from all sources, while a dose of 45 sieverts is fatal. The amount of radiation in Byers' body means he could have killed several people if they'd been in contact with him for long periods of time. It also found that he had abnormally high levels of radon and radium in his lungs. While he didn't die from acute radiation syndrome, which is often referred to as a radiation burn, his death certificate listed cancers of the jaw and spine as the cause of death. An X-ray revealed lesions that were consistent with those seen in the Radium Girls, a group of factory workers who died from painting watch dials with radium. As far as he knew, there were no negative effects from taking radium, and any benefits would be huge. After all, it came from the same element that was used in cancer treatments. What we know for sure is that he was laid to rest at Allegheny Cemetery in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The plot remains marked by a large granite monument engraved with his name and the dates of his birth and death. While the details of his burial are in dispute, one thing is certain: his grave may be dangerous to dig up. And that leads us to a rather unsettling mystery. And many doctors believed that increased energy and improved sex lives were linked to radiation exposure. Moyer administered 2.5 treatments to Byers, along with a series of massages, and although he reported some improvement, the treatment left Byers thirsty. So much so that he drank 2 to 3 bottles of Radithor every day from 1927 to 1930. Over that time, he consumed an estimated 1,400 bottles. That's more than 3 times the lethal dose of radium. According to Byers, he experienced shooting pains in his arm for some time, which led him to a physiotherapist named Dr. Charles Clinton Moyer. Moyer was willing to try anything to help ease his pain, even though he had never heard of the treatment he was about to administer. Before long, Byers was too sick to work, and eventually too sick to leave his home. Attorney Robert Heinowin described the scene for the commission. All the remaining bone tissue of his body was slowly disintegrating, and holes were actually forming in his skull. With evidence like that, it was easy for the FTC to shut down Bailey's scam. However, Byers was too sick to testify in court, and in January 1932, he was forced to give a second statement, this time detailing his ordeal. He explained that he originally felt fine, until he began drinking large amounts of Radithor. Once his teeth started falling out, he sought out Dr. Crow, who diagnosed him with radium necrosis, a condition where radium accumulates in bones and causes massive tissue damage. He had extensive facial surgery in an effort to save his life, but his upper jaw and most of his lower jaw had to be removed, and his brain developed dangerous abscesses. Holes began to form in his skull. Byers was described as being mentally alert but barely able to speak with his head wrapped in bandages. The gruesome condition understandably shocked the public. These images aren't of someone going viral for their dramatic weight loss or skin transformation, and his story is truly horrifying. If you didn't realize it, that wasn't true. They're actually of a man named Eben Byers. Of course, he simply mixed distilled water with a little radium and sold it to unsuspecting customers. It worked like magic. Bailey knew what he was doing. All he had to do was convince them that it could cure anything from fatigue to impotence. One thing's for sure, he was a master salesman and huckster who earned more than $5 million selling worthless cancer treatments. And he used that experience to turn a profit with Radithor. Byers had a life that many would envy, or, as it was marketed, pure sunshine in a bottle. What Byers received was a liquid called Radithor. Doctors received a generous incentive to prescribe it, 17% of the purchase price. Who dropped out of Harvard after 2 years because, according to him, he couldn't stand all the boozing around. Bailey had struck gold with Radithor, a product that promised to restore your youth. Radithor was sold by a man named William J., told people that he discovered a way to extract radium from water that glowed a brilliant B-L-U-E-A Bailey. Despite never finishing high school and having no medical credentials, he used the title of Dr. William J. Bailey on business documents. He had a history of fraud and even served time in prison for selling worthless stock. But despite his sketchy past, he liked many fake medicines, and that wasn't the only place it ended up. The Federal Trade Commission opened an investigation into Radithor, and by February, he was unrecognizable. His troubles were only just beginning, prompting Byers to give a statement from his Southampton mansion. As if things couldn't get any worse, a large hole opened up in his jaw in 1931, but Byers' health continued to deteriorate. News of Byers' death made headlines around the world. But as for Byers, some accounts say that he was buried in a lead-lined coffin, while others claim that his coffin was only lined with an inch of lead. Products containing radium are still sold, but they're strictly regulated and only available to licensed professionals. While the internet is filled with disturbing images purportedly showing Byers without a jaw, none of them appear to be genuine. It was soon discovered that they licked toothpicks and other objects to bring them to a fine point to apply the paint. But Byers' death wasn't the first time that radium made headlines. Make sure to subscribe to our channel for more scary stories. Today, before you go,